Did you know that with clever use of blueprints in Satisfactory, we can create one-click factory, automatically sorting through every single item. Then after a hard day of biosphere adjustment, you can just dump the whole inventory worth of items into a single container. And then it gets sorted and converted into bio-related materials. And better yet, we can even make protection system, so you will never worry again about clogging up this factory with non-native items. Welcome to Satisfactory Blueprint Only Challenge. Challenge where I use only blueprint factories to beat Satisfactory. And today I will show and share a blueprint for conversion of biomaterials. With one single blueprint, we can convert not only Flora and Fauna remains, but also even convert slugs into a power shards. This blueprint is part of my personal storage solutions, and I have already shared personal storage blueprints for iron, electronics, packaged fuel and weaponry items. In this video, I will share and show not only blueprint itself, but also I will discuss internal layout and logic. After all, there are a lot of interesting things going under the hood. So even if this blueprint is not your jam, you still can apply knowledge of this video to your own personal factories in Satisfactory. When I design personal storage factory, this factory is usually based on 6 containers on the frontal side. This is the nature of 4x4 blueprints. So as the result, it is natural to aim for production of 6 items in any personal storage factory. But we still need the way to input items in the front of the factory with container. This leaves us with only 5 items to tackle. And in this case, we have solid biofuel, color cartridges, fabric, alien protein and power shards. Then there are several challenges. When it comes to handling of items like leaves and wood, and when there are non-native items clogging up the system, we will need some sort of clever solution to split out excess items and to have some sort of internal buffers in place. And before we begin, on the technology side, we will need smart splitters. Smart splitters are unlocked in the MEM as the step 11 in Criterium or progression. So with all that in mind, let's check out this blueprint converted into a simple two-dimensional plane. Alright, so this is the blueprint represented in 3 different ways. First of all, we have our blueprint in the blueprint designer, then we have our blueprint without any walls, and finally we have the blueprint in nice two-dimensional plane. There are several logical parts. First we will have production of power shards, then we will have conversion of our wood, leaves and flower petals, then we will have conversion of biomass and mycelia into the fabric, and finally we will have conversion of alien remains into that alien protein. As the first step, we have our power shard production. Here we have 3 smart splitters and 3 constructors. Each one of them is dealing with each type of the slug. Here we have our blue slug separation from the main chain, then we have yellow slugs, and finally we have the purple slugs. Then we have our constructors that are converting each respective type of the slugs into the power shards, and after they are being converted, they are being merged into the industrial storage container. As the second step, we want to deal with the flora, and I'm talking about wood, leaves, flower petals and mycelia. And each one of those items is very common. There will be a lot of cases when you will be inputting several stacks of each item, and this in particular actually poses an extra challenge. So here's the challenge. Over here we have our color cartridge production, and we want the flower petals to be split from the main chain. Nice, clean and easy. So here we have the smart splitter splitting flower petals from the main chain. But what would happen if we input like 10 stacks of the flower petals? Well, this is only one constructor, and it can only hold up one single stack of the flower petals. This means, unless we process every single flower petal in this constructor, rest of the chain will be clogged. Well, this is not ideal, we want to use the rest of the factory, and waiting until one constructor do its job is not optimal. So for this reason, we want to have some sort of the buffer, and for this reason, we are using one storage container, nice and easy. But there is a second issue. So what if we have so much flower petals that we actually produce so much color cartridges that this industrial storage container is full? Well, once again we will clog up the system, and to avoid this, we want not only to have this surge protection, we want to have the overflow protection, and for that we are setting one of the outputs, the main output, to overflow setting. By doing this, when we are actually filled up the whole of our industrial storage container, in this case, we can basically flush the rest of the flower petals from the system into the dump container. So all those small containers are basically the buffers to protect our factory from surges when you are inputting several stacks of one single item. This is the buffer for flower petals, then we have the buffer for leaves, we have the buffer for wood, we have buffer for the biomass, and we have buffer for mycelia. So the next step is to deal with our leaves and wood. And over here we have the smart splitter. Once again we have the overflow protection when we have too much wood and leaves. With one single constructor we are converting our wood into the biomass, and in particular we are making 300 biomass per minute. This is quite a lot, and for that particular reason I have decided to convert that into the solid biofuel. And to do this I will need total of 3 constructors. Yes, I can overclock one single constructor to produce all the solid biofuel that I want, but honestly the space in this blueprint is not an issue, so I just placed 3 normal constructors without any overclock. Also, yes, we are making the overflow protection for the excess wood. We can be even smarter, so eventually the solid biofuel will fill up our industrial storage container, and in this case we can just overflow and flush the rest of the wood from the system. But we can be smarter. So over here we are producing biomass. So what if we will continue to convert our wood into the extra biomass, and we will be flushing out the biomass from the rest of the factory, not the wood. In this case, we want to have the smart splitter over here. So we are filling up our constructors with our biomass, and when they are full, when our industrial storage container is full of solid biofuel, then the rest of the biomass will continue to overflow into our surge protection over there. Alright, so we have dealt with the wood, but what about mycelia and what about the leaves? So over here we are splitting the leaves into the buffer, then we are converting the leaves into the biomass with this constructor, then we have overflow protection for the biomass with the smart splitter over here, then we have the buffer for the biomass over there, and finally we have reached assembler, and this assembler is producing fabric from mycelia and biomass. Biomass is being provided by our leaves constructor, and mycelia is being fed from this buffer by this smart splitter. And once again, very simple smart splitter, just splitting mycelia and having the overflow protection. And well, this is pretty much it for the Flora conversion. But what about our Fauna? Well, for that we are using 4 converters or 4 constructors and 4 smart splitters. Every single splitter have respective type of remains. Here we have plasma splitter, there we have hog remains, there we have hatcher remains, and finally we have the stinger remains. Every single constructor is converting each type of remains into the alien protein, and I'm not doing anything else with the alien protein, I'm just storing it because from the alien protein I can produce the biofuel and the inhalers. So after that we have the final splitter that once again have the overflow setting that is protecting the whole system, the whole factory from non-native items, like for example here I am inputting the heavy modular frames, here I am putting the screws. Well, those items will clog any system if we do not have overflow setting, and by having overflow setting I basically can avoid that. And as you can see, all those non-native items basically end up in our protected storage. Alright, so this is the 2D layout explained. We kinda tackled every single challenge that can arise with this Biowaste processor, and we have our protection with the final storage container, and here we can have the awesome sink, for example, syncing all those extra items there, or we can just manually sort it once in a while. But what about our 3D layout? So over here you can see this blueprint without any walls, and on front we have our 6 storage containers. One is for the input, 5 of them are for respective materials that we are producing, and on the back over here we have our surge protection right here. Then we have our 3 constructors for our power slugs, then we have a bunch of well, spaghetti there, then we have our buffer here for the woods, then we have the woods, 3 constructors for the solid biofuel, and then we have the leaves over there. No, this is flower petals. As you can see, even I could not remember everything. Over here we have the leaves, and finally the final level. Here we have some very interesting manifolds going just under the constructors over here. Here we have our Fauna constructors or converters into, well, alien protein. Here we have our assembler for the fabric. Here we have have biomass buffer, here we have the mycelia buffer, so well, everything is kinda in one place. And I would say that this blueprint is not so hard to condense into the 4x4. There is no fancy solutions with manifolds. Pretty much this is the most condensed thing in this blueprint. Everything else is pretty nice, chill and easy. As always, everything in the game is labeled to the best of my ability, and if you never exported blueprints, you will need to do this manually. You need to go to your system disk, users, your username, add data, local, factory game, saved, save games, blueprints. There your game session would create a folder once you have blueprints unlocked in your progression and have created first blueprint. Every blueprint consists from two parts: .sbp file with parts and items and .sbp cfg file with text description and color settings. Quick note that my blueprints are done in update 8 experimental and they will crash on older version of Satisfactory. Links to blueprints are in the pinned comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next time, have a nice one, and Yakis out!